Hello everybody, can you hear me? Right, great. I'm so sorry for all the disturbance. I took like 4 hours waiting on the internet company and I ended up going to one of my friends' house to give the lecture. All right, so let's start today with the muscles. So for the muscular system, we are going to be sticking to the list on Canvas. So you are only required to know the muscles, muscle actions, insertions, insertion, and origin for the muscles that are listed on Canvas. But I will show you where you can find it at the end. All right, so, but just for now, we need first to understand according to what we're going to be classifying the muscles. First, according to the action. So general concepts that we need to be aware of at this point is that a muscle, when it contracts, it simply shortens. So muscle contraction is equal to muscle shortening. So I have a reduction in the length of the muscle, which will allow me to get 2 points closer to one another. One point is going to be considered as an insertion for the muscle, and the other point is going to be the origin of the muscle. So I have 2 points to which the muscle is going to be attached. Any muscle is going to be attached to 2 points. One is going to be considered the origin. The other one is going to be considered the insertion of the muscle. Let's say here an example. So if I am looking at the biceps brachii, all of you know the biceps in your arm. So the biceps it has 2 origins, as we're going to learn later on today. This is my scapula, this is my humerus, and this is going to be the radius like this. If I'm looking at the biceps brachii, it's going to be formed of 2 muscles. One that gets its origin from the acromion, one that gets its origin from the glenoid cavity. Both muscles are going to be inserted down in the radial tuberosity here at this point. So what is the point of origin here? It is going to be the scapula. And what's going to be the point of insertion is going to be the radius, radial tuberosity of the radius. So simply speaking, what is a muscle contraction? Again, this is a shortening in the length of the muscle. So if I am telling you that you have 2 points and you're shortening the distance between those 2 points, this means that you are pulling the 2 points closer to one another. So I'm getting this point to move towards this point, or the 2 points going to be moving closer to one another, or this point on here going to be moving closer to this point. So you have 3 conditions on here. You either move 1 point towards the other, or you move the 2 points towards one another. So here, what's going to happen when I contract the biceps brachii? I'm shortening the length of the biceps. And as I shorten the length of the biceps, the 2 points going to be moving towards one another. But here, the scapula is fixed in its place. So you're not moving the scapula itself. So you're going to be pulling mainly on the point of insertion here, which is going to be the radius. So as I pull on the radius, what's going to happen? I'm pulling on the radius, so the radius is going to be moving towards my scapula. So what action did we study this as? What do you think? Flexion, exactly. Flexion. So if I'm putting the radius towards my scapula, I'm reducing the angle of the joint. And as I reduce the angle of the joint, simply what do we call this? If I'm moving along the sagittal plane, it's going to be a flexion. So the main actions that will be performed by the biceps brachii, if you understand where do I have the attachments of the muscle, you can figure out the action. You're shortening the distance between the two attachments. And as I shorten the distance between the two attachments, what's going to happen again? You are putting one point towards another. So here, biceps brachii, when you shorten the length of the biceps, what you're going to be doing, you're going to be putting the forearm towards your scapula. And this is going to be reducing the angle of my elbow joint, allowing me to perform a flexion of the elbow. So this as an example, if I'm looking at the elbow joint can perform what actions? Along the sagittal plane, it only moves along the sagittal plane. So if I'm reducing the angle of the joint, it's going to be a flexion. If I'm increasing the angle of the joint, it's going to be an extension. So considering this, if I'm looking at the flexion of the elbow is going to be performed by a muscle, and this muscle here is going to be exerting the main force to perform the action. So we're going to be calling the biceps here in terms of elbow flexion. It's going to be the prime mover for elbow flexion. What I mean by prime mover is the muscle that exerts most of the effort to perform an action. Again, what is a prime mover? A prime mover is a muscle that's going to be performing the main force to perform a specific action. So here, if I'm talking about flexion of the elbow, the prime mover for elbow flexion is going to be the biceps brachii. What if I told you that I have a muscle in here in the back of the arm, and this muscle is going to be pulling the ulna like this. So what action am I performing now? Am I performing flexion or extension? When I pull the ulna like this. What do you think? Extension, exact, extension. So here, is this muscle helping with the flexion or opposing the flexion? What do you think? Is this helping with the flexion or opposing the flexion? It's opposing the flexion. So here, in terms of elbow flexion, the triceps brachii is going to be considered an antagonist muscle. What's an antagonist muscle? It's a muscle that's going to be here opposing or reverses my action. So if I'm talking about flexion of the elbow, what is the prime mover? What is the muscle that exerts most of the effort? Biceps brachii. What is the muscle that opposes the flexion? The one that performs extension, which is my, in this case, triceps brachii. Any questions at this point before we move ahead? We're good? All right, great. So a muscle that performs a certain action or performs most of the effort to allow a certain action to take place, it's the prime mover. If the muscle opposes this action, it's going to be an antagonist. All right, so let's let's ask you a question on here. So I'm still looking at the elbow, still looking at the elbow. This is flexion, this is extension. All right, but here I'm talking about the extension of the elbow. Elbow extension. Elbow extension is going to be allowed by what muscle? Can you remind me? What is the muscle in the arm that will be pulling the ulna backward for you to be able to perform an extension of the forearm? Biceps brachii. So if I'm talking about the elbow extension, what is the prime mover for elbow or forearm extension? It's going to be my muscles that performs, you see on here, this is where I get you tricked. So the prime mover is a muscle that's going to be exerting the main effort to perform a certain action. Here, what action am I asking about? I'm asking about extension. I'm asking about the extension. So what is the prime mover? What is the muscle that exerts the main part of the force to allow the extension to take place? Triceps, exactly. So triceps brachii, in terms of elbow extension, it is the prime mover. So can you guess which one is going to be opposing the extension that performs an opposing action here? Biceps. So if I'm talking about elbow extension, the prime move for elbow extension is going to be my triceps. This is the one that exerts the effort to allow the extension to take place. How about the biceps? The biceps is going to be opposing the action. I will consider it in terms of elbow extension is going to be an antagonist. Is this concept clear? So again, if I'm performing the action, I am the prime mover. If I'm opposing the action, it's going to be I'm waiting to see an answer here. An antagonist, exactly. All right, so let's do another example just for me to make sure that you've got this concept. So if I'm looking here at the femur, this is my femur like this. This is gonna be my tibia. And this is gonna be the fibula. I've got a muscle here in the anterior aspect of the thigh called the Quadriceps Femoris. I have 4 heads, Quadriceps Femoris. Quadriceps Femoris is going to be doing what? It's going to be pulling the tibia. So if I'm looking at the side of the thigh, like this is the thigh and this is the leg. This is from a side view. So quadriceps is here. This is my quadriceps. It gets its origin here. And it's going to be inserted in this point. So if I'm contracting the muscle, again, what is a muscle contraction? This is shortening of the length of the muscle. If I'm shortening the length of the muscle, what's going to happen? The point of insertion is going to be moving towards the point of origin. So what action would I be performing in this case when I contract my quadriceps muscle? I would be, just to make sure that you studied the movements here. What happened to the joint? Is this a flexion or an extension? Remember, the knee joint angle is on the posterior side. So when you are putting the tibia up, it's going to be an increase in the angle. So you see on here, again, one more time. This was the angle of the joint. After you perform the movement, This is the angle in green. So what happened to the angle of the joint? Did it increase or decrease? If I have an increase in the angle, this is what we call extension. So when I contract the quadriceps femoris, it's going to be allowing extension of my knee. What if I'm looking at another group of muscles that we're going to be studying later today? It's going to be pulling the tibia to move backward. So those muscles are going to be performing what to the knee joint? They are reducing the angle. So what do we consider this as? Flexion. Exactly, flexion. So we're looking here. If I increase the angle of the knee, I'm moving up, it's going to be extension. If I'm moving down like this, it's going to be a flexion of the knee. So what is the relationship between those two groups of muscles? Between the reddish ones on here and the green ones on here? What is the relationship between those two? Are those helping one another or they are opposing one another? So quadriceps is performing what again? Extension of the knee. And this group of muscles in green going to be performing flexion of the knee. So are those antagonists or they are helping one another? Opposing one another. So they are antagonists. If I am opposed, I have two groups of muscles that are opposing one another, we consider this as antagonist muscles. What if I told you back to the elbow here? I've got another muscle located here in the anterior aspect of my arm called the brachialis. Brachialis here is going to be also pulling the forearm like this. So is it opposing the biceps or helping the biceps to perform its action? What do you think? Helping. Exactly. So brachialis muscle is going to be helping the biceps brachii to perform its action. So we call this relationship between the muscles, it's a synergist. What's a synergist? Synergists, those are aiding the prime move. So biceps brachii in this example is going to be my prime mover for forearm flexion. And the brachialis is going to be a synergist muscle that helps the biceps to perform the flexion. So again, synergist aids the agonist or the prime mover to perform its action. Easy, easy. Anybody struggling with the concept here? Antagonist, synergist, prime mover. Any problems so far? All right, great, great. So what if a muscle is helping another muscle to perform its action, but not by adding force? So here's the brachialis was adding force to the biceps for it to perform its action. So it's a synergist muscle. But what if I told you I have, this is the posterior aspect of my skull. So those are my mastoid processes. This is my external occipital protuberance. And those are the occipital condyles like this here. And this is my spine, the cervical vertebrae first. And then the thoracic vertebrae like this. all right? So what I'm drawing here, this is a mastoid, those are the mastoid processes. This is my external occipital protuberance in the back of your head, if you remember, and those are the occipital condyles. And this line here was the external occipital crest. On both sides, if you remember, on both sides of the spine, we've got those shoulder blades. You remember, this is my scapula, like this. So if this is my scapula, I have a muscle that gets its origin from the external occipital protuberance, external occipital crest, and the spinous processes of my cervical and thoracic vertebrae. All this is the origin of the muscle. All this is the origin of the muscle. And it will be inserted like this in the spine of the scapula. So you've got muscle fibers on here that will join one another to be inserted at this point in the spine of the scapula. So if I told you I will be contracting this group of muscles, this group of muscle fibers, the upper muscle fibers of this muscle is called the trapezius. All right, so if I contracted this group of muscle fibers, the upper muscle fibers of the trapezius, what's going to be the effect? What's going to be the movement that I will be performing? Imagine you're putting those points towards those points. So I'm pulling the scapula up. See on here, I am elevating the shoulder. So try to imagine this is my back of the neck, not flexion, not flexion, not extension, not flexion, not extension. You're not moving along the sagittal plane. You're not moving along sagittal plane. See on here, looking here at the muscle. That we're looking at. This muscle is called my trapezius. You see on here, where do I get the origin from? I get the origin from this point, external occipital protuberance, external occipital crest. I got the origin from the spinous processes here. All this, all this, all this. And I will be inserted here in the spine of the scapula. So if I'm contracting this group of muscles on here, what action would I be performing? You see on here, I am moving the other way. I'm moving this point up towards here. So what bone am I pulling? I'm pulling the scapula to move up. It's not abduction, it's not raising the arm, it's gonna be elevation of the shoulder. Here, can you see me? Can you see me? It's not raising your arm. So I'm elevating my shoulders like this. Elevation of the shoulders. Elevation of the shoulders. See, I am pulling the scapula. What if I told you this muscle has a different action? Rather than pulling the scapula, I'm not going to be moving the scapula. So the scapula is going to be in its place, but I will be pulling on this point. I am moving this point, the external occipital protuberance, towards my scapula. So let's see on here. If I'm sitting like this is my external occipital protuberance, right? I am putting the external occipital protuberance towards my scapula. So what action am I performing here? What do you think? So I started from this point. I'm going like this. This is going to be neck extension, exactly. Neck extension. Hyperextension is not a movement by itself. It's not a movement by itself. It's just an extension, but beyond the normal range of motion. All right. Hyperextension is not a separate movement. It's just a continuation of the extension beyond the normal range of motion. Make sense? Make sense? So here, in order for me to allow this movement to take place, can I pull the head like this, backward, performing neck extension without fixing the scapula in its place? So if I didn't fix the scapula, what's going to happen? The scapula is going to be moving up. If I didn't fix the scapula, the scapula is going to be moving up, allowing me to elevate my shoulder like this. You know, when you go to the gym, you will see those big guys, and they are holding a bar, and they are moving their shoulders up, 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 up. So what they are training the trapezius, the upper muscle fibers. All right. So we're looking here. If I didn't fix the scapula, what's going to happen? I won't extend my neck, but I will be elevating my shoulders. So in order for me to allow just the extension of the neck, what I will do, I need to fix the scapula. So I will have other muscles that will be pulling the scapula in the opposing direction for it to not move and for only the head to move. For me to allow the extension of the neck to take place, I need to fix the scapula. So those muscles that are stabilizing the scapula for it to not move are aiding the trapezius to perform neck extension. So they are helping, but without adding force. They are not adding force to the trapezius for it to perform its action. What they are doing is fixing the scapula. So we're gonna consider those as those who will fix bone to allow another movement to take place. Those are what we're gonna call fixators. So again, we classify the muscles according to if the muscle is the main muscle to allow a certain action to take place, it's called either an agonist or a an agonist or a prime mover. If I have a muscle that opposes the action of the prime mover or the agonist, we're gonna call this as my antagonist. If I have a muscle that aids the prime mover by adding force, I am exerting force to help with the action of the prime mover. This is going to be a synergist. If a muscle is fixing a bone for another muscle to have a different action, it's going to be a fixator. I'm helping, but not by adding force. Rather than adding force, I am doing what? I am fixing. I am immobilizing the origin of the prime mover. So here, I am fixing the scapula in its place. So for it to not move and for me to just allow the movement of the head, to allow the neck extension. Make sense? Makes sense? Let me know if you've got a problem here. Please let me know, stop me if you've got problem. All right, great, great. All right, so how do we name the muscles? According to what all those muscles will get their names. We have many factors that will be participating in determining the name of the muscles. This includes the direction of the muscle itself. So if I have a straight muscle, it's called rectus. Recta means straight. So if I have a geometric shape that has straight angles, what do we call this geometric shape with right angles? This is a rectangle. Recta, straight. Angle. I have straight angles. Recta means straight. The part of the colon that will be traveling straight down. So the colon ends like this. And I have a terminal part of it that will be traveling straight down. This is my rectum. Recta, straight. So we're going to call the muscles which are traveling straight, those are the recti, rectus. Like what? Like, for example, we're looking at this here. I will remove this one here. We'll see a straight muscle traveling down in the abdomen. Straight muscle traveling down in the abdomen. So we're going to call this as my rectus abdominis. Rectus means straight. Where is it located? This straight muscle traveling down, it's going to be located in my abdomen. So it's going to be my rectus abdominis. Rectus abdominis. Straight muscle is what we call rectus. Let's see another example here of recti. So you've got here a straight muscle, but this time in the thigh. Something related to the thigh is what we call femoral, right? So here, this is a straight muscle of the thigh. So I will call this is my rectus femoris. Straight muscle, rectus of the thigh, femoris. So you see on here, how did you get those names from? Rectus abdominis, rectus femoris. So the next 20 minutes are highly important that will give sense to all what we're going to be discussing in this chapter. So very important. Please pay attention here to know the concepts on how do we name the muscles, how do we get the actions. All right, those are very important muscles, and it will make everything that will come after so logical. You can predict. You don't have to memorize everything. All right, everything gonna make sense if you understand the concepts. All right, so again, according to the shape of the muscle, if I have a muscle which travels straight down, this is gonna be my rectus. Got two examples, one in the abdomen, rectus abdominis, one in the thigh, rectus femoris. Easy. Good. All right, so another shape that we might be naming the muscle according to it, it's gonna be if the muscle fibers are traveling in a horizontal pattern. See on here, traveling in a right angle. So we're gonna call this as my transversus. Remember, a transverse section is what splits the body into an upper part and lower part. So you see here, I am traveling in a right angle. So we're gonna call this as the transversus. And where is it located? It's located in the abdomen. So we're gonna call it transversus abdominis. Like the straight muscle of the abdomen, what did we call it? Rectus abdominis. So you see on here. This is my transversus abdominis. Transversus abdominis. All right. Another shape that we might be naming the muscle according if the muscle fibers of the muscle are traveling in an oblique pattern. You see on here, I'm not traveling straight, I'm not traveling in a horizontal pattern or a right angle. Instead, I am traveling in an oblique lines. So we're gonna call the muscle here, it's an oblique. So oblique muscle. All right, so what do you think we're gonna name this muscle on here? Located in the abdomen. and which fibers are traveling in an oblique angle. So we see here, this is my oblique muscle on the outside. So we're going to call it external oblique. Why did we call it external oblique? Because if you see on here, when I dissect this layer, I see another muscle, which muscle fibers are traveling also in an oblique pattern. So it's going to be, rather than external oblique, this one is going to be on the inside. I did have to remove the outside layer for me to see it. So it's going to be my internal oblique. Internal oblique muscle. Internal oblique muscle. All right. So first thing here is according to the direction of the muscle fibers. If we've got straight muscle fibers, rectus. If the muscle fibers are traveling in a right angle, this is going to be transversus. And if the muscle fibers are traveling at an angle, oblique angle, this is going to be an oblique muscle. Again, major example here of an oblique muscle is going to be the two which are located in my abdomen. One on the outside, one on the inside. So we're going to call the one on the outside, this is my external oblique, and the one on the inside, this is my internal oblique muscle. Make sense? Makes sense so far? Great. All right, so looking here at another shape of the muscles that we might be considering when we name the muscle is if I have muscle which fibers are traveling in a circular pattern. I have a circular muscle, see on here, this is going to be called an orbicularis. Orbit, you know, orbit, circular. So a muscle which fibers are circular like this, it's going to be an orbicularis. So I have two circular muscles actually. You see one here around the oral orifice, around the opening of your mouth, and one that would be surrounding your eye. So we call the one which surrounds the eyes, this is my Orbicularis Oculi. Oculus is going to be related to the eye. So we call the circular muscle around the eye my Orbicularis Oculi. How about the circular muscle around the mouth or something related to the mouth? If you have an exam and you're going to only use your mouth, you won't write down anything. It's going to be oral, exactly. Oral. So I will call the muscle that's going to be, which fiber is going to be traveling in a circular pattern, orbicularis, and it's related to the mouth. So I will call it orbicularis oris. Oris means related to the mouth. All right, so again, what we're looking at in here, we're looking at shapes of the muscles according to which we named the muscle. So we've seen rectus, we've seen transversus, we've seen oblique, we've seen orbicularis. Also, we can name according to the shape of the muscle. In some cases, we name the muscle according to its shape. So like what example on here? Like when we look at the muscle of the shoulder. See, this muscle looks like what shape is it, you know? Here. What is this? This is a triangle. Exactly. So this muscle looks like a triangle. Looks like a triangle. So I will call it the one that looks like a triangle. My delta means triangle. And oid means it looks like or similar to. So this is a one that looks like a delta, deltoid, deltoid. I have a triangular shape of the muscle. Triangular shape of the muscle. Also, some muscles, we're gonna name them according to not the shape, not the direction of the fibers, but according to the number of organs. Remember, any muscle has at least two attachments. One side is going to be acting as the origin of the muscle, the other side is going to be the insertion of the muscle. So here, if I'm looking at a muscle located in the arm, see on here, this muscle located in the anterior aspect of the arm, it has how many origins? Can you see? I have one, two. I have two heads. So a muscle with two heads located in the arm. So I will call the muscle my biceps. Two heads. Two. Ceps, heads, origins. So this is a biceps located where? In my arm. So we're going to call it also according, we're going to name it also according to its location. It's my biceps brachii. Remember, brachial means it's related to the arm. Something related to the arm, if you remember from our very first meeting. Something related to the arm is called brachial. So this is a muscle that has two heads, so we're going to call it biceps. Two heads. See? I have two heads, two origins of this muscle. And it's located in my arm. So biceps brachii. How about this one? Okay. See, one, two, and a third one located underneath. So you've got one, two, and three. Those three are fused together to form one big muscle located in the dorsal aspect of your arm. So what do you think we're going to name this? It's going to be the one with three heads. So if the one with two heads was biceps, so the one with three heads is going to be my triceps. And because it's located, yes, exactly, as it is located in the arm, it's going to be my triceps brachii. Also, we're going to name the muscles according to their relative size. So if a muscle is located in the same region, or two muscles are located in the same region, but one is bigger than the other, so I will call the bigger one major and the smaller one minor. I will name the big one maximus and the small one minimus. All right, so according to the relative size of the muscle, I will be naming those muscles. So remember, something related to this part of the chest is pectoral. So I have a big muscle in the pectoral region, so we're gonna call this as my pectoralis major. What if I remove the pectoralis major? I will see a smaller one still in the same region, so still pectoralis. But this one is much smaller in size. So rather than if the big one is major, so the smaller one is going to be, it's not something major, it's something minor. Exactly. So we see here, we got a large muscle in the chest, pectoralis major, smaller one in the same region is going to be my pectoralis minor. So relative size here. What's another example? This is the gluteal region. I have a large muscle in the gluteal region. As you see on here, this is going to be the gluteus maximus. Maximus. And see on here, a much smaller one located in the same regions is going to be, if the big one is called the maximus, so the small one is called minimus. Mini, small. All right, so again, what we're looking at in here, the muscle might be named according to its relative size. Relative size. So if I told you, let's say here, I don't want to get to this detail for a minute. All right, so according to location, almost all the muscles that we've mentioned were named according to their location. So we've seen something like this. Abdominis. It's going to be transversus abdominis. If you remember, we did have a straight muscle in here, traveling straight. What did we call the straight muscle of the abdomen located in the abdomen? Rectus abdominis. So abdominis, abdomen. Can you guess the name of this muscle on here? All right, so let me remove this. Where am I located? What do we call this part of the head? Frontal, right? Frontal. So frontal, so it's gonna be my frontalis muscle. How about this one? Remember, this is a part where you're gonna see the time. Remember, what did we call it? Where you get the first white hair, gray hair, this is the temporal. So we're gonna call the muscle here attached to the temporal bone my temporalis. I am getting my origin from the temporal bone. Looking here. What do you think? It's gonna be the name of this muscle. Here, remember? What do we call the posterior part of the head? Occipital, exactly, occipital. So I will name this muscle my occipitalis. Occipitalis is the muscle in the back of the head, occipitalis. All right, so again, according to the muscle location, we're gonna name the muscles. What else? Pectoral, in the pectoral region. Brachialis, or brachialis muscle. This is my biceps. I need to remove the biceps first. See the brachialis. It's going to be underneath the biceps like this. This is my brachialis muscle. So I am located in the arm. So I am related to the brachial. So the muscle here in the arm is my brachialis. What do you think here? Remember, we call the muscle formed of four heads here in the thigh. So I'm really located in the thigh, so it's called femoris. Located down in the leg. What is a large bone that holds all the body weight down in the leg? It's gonna be the tibia. So it's gonna be my tibialis muscle. All right, I am located in the leg, so I am tibialis. Make sense so far? Make sense? Also, some muscles are going to be named according to their action. According to the action they perform. So what do you think? If I have a muscle that performs flexion, so it's going to be called flexor. If I have a muscle that performs extension, it's going to be an extensor. If I have a muscle that's going to be performing abduction, it's going to be an abductor muscle. It's going to be one that will be, and this is a prominent group that we're going to see in human. So abduction, so this is going to be the abductor muscle. All right, so we're looking here at the action. So if I told you where should I be looking at in the atlas, if I did read, a muscle is called flexor digiti minimi. Where should I be looking for it? What do you think? Fingers in the hand. Yeah, so what can you understand? What can you understand from the name? So you are all right. So it might be in the hand or the foot, right? Why did you choose? I am performing what action first? What can I understand from the name? I am flexor. Flexor, so I'm performing flexion. Of digit. Remember, digital is something related to fingers. So I'm performing flexion of the finger, digiti. And which finger? My pinky, a little finger. All right, so this is a muscle that's going to be performing flexion of my little finger. So let's see on here. This is my flexor digiti minimi. And as you said, also, I'm gonna have flexor digiti minimi down in my foot. because we also going to be mentioning something related to the toes as digital, like the fingers. So it's both. You have two of them. So one in the foot and one up in the hand. But those are not muscles that we're going to be, that are not required for the upcoming exam. This is just for you to figure out stuff like from just the name. The name tells you a lot of things. The name tells you a lot of things. All right, so very, very important to keep in mind that the name is giving you the answer for the question, is telling you where you should be looking, whether this muscle is going to be the right muscle or not. All right, so just understanding those concepts, those basic concepts, how did we name the muscle, will help you a lot. Any questions? Any questions? Questions? So let's try another one. A muscle called biceps femoris. What can you understand from the name here? Where should I be looking at? In the thigh, a muscle with two heads, exactly. So I have two organs, two heads, the same, and I should be looking down in the thigh. So looking here, this is my biceps femoris, and those are, this is one. Those are the two heads of the biceps muscle located in the thigh. So just from the name, I figured out that it's a muscle with two heads located in the thigh without having to, yeah, it's one of the hamstring muscles, yes. It's one of the hamstring muscles. Christine asking, is this in the hamstring area? Yes, it's one of the hamstring muscles. My biceps femoris. Again, this is a muscle with two heads located in the thigh, in the posterior aspect of the thigh, but this is something like posterior aspect or anterior aspect I don't know from the name. Until I study the actual muscle, I will figure this out. All right, easy, easy. All right, great. According to the direction of the muscle fibers, we classify the muscles into if circular, orbicularis. If the muscles are converging like this here to meet at one point, this is a convergent muscle, like the example here, the pectoralis major. If the muscle fibers are traveling parallel to one another, this example here is like the, I'm sorry, here. It's going to be like the sartorius. If the muscle fibers are going to be inserted into a long ligament like this from one side, it's going to be a unipinnate muscle. If I have multiple ligaments on the inside to which the muscle fibers are going to be inserted, this is a multipinnate muscle. If I have a spindle shape like this, it's going to be a fusiform muscle. As the example here is the biceps brachii. If I have one ligament and the muscle fibers are going to be inserted on both sides like this, This is a bipinnate. So if you have a ligament and the muscle fibers are attaching this ligament from one side, we call this muscle is a unipinnate. I have only muscle fibers attached to the ligament from one side. If the muscle has muscle fibers attaching to the central ligament from both sides, from two sides, it's going to be a bipinnate. We have multiple ligaments and the muscles are attaching from all around. See on here, this is going to be a multi-pinnate, many. All right, easy, easy. Any questions? All right, so we can have a break for 10 minutes. I would put the time on here. Hopefully it works. It doesn't ruin. So, or I won't put a time. Just make sure that I don't want to ruin anything. I just set it up. All right, so 10 minutes. We're gonna be back. Just have a break. Get something to drink or so, because we're gonna start our main discussion. All this has been an introduction, which is going to be really helpful, what we're going to be discussing, but the main part that's going to be tested on the upcoming lab is this coming part. All right, so we can have a break for 10. We come back, discuss more about Z muscles. For the lab exams, some of you are asking about the lab exams. So I am currently preparing the proctored lab exams on a paid platform. So I've been in a meeting yesterday with many representatives from the college, and they are still looking at their budget, whether they will be able to sponsor an online proctored examination platform for all students or not. But the lecture exams are going to be conducted as usual for the hybrid class on campus, and for the face-to-face class is going to be exactly the same like your quizzes. So you're going to be completing your lecture exams on campus as what you're used to with the quizzes. So it's going to be the same structure as the quizzes, same format, same way to access it. Right, so this is concerning the lecture exams, but for the lab exams, I have them ready, but you won't have the lab exam anytime soon, because we did just start the muscles until maybe 2 weeks from now to have the exam. Right, so just focus on studying the material now rather than on the exam, because everything changes. They didn't take a definitive decision on how they would be proceeding, and I try my best to use a free source for the proctoring, or I mean, in other words, the college to sponsor it rather than for you to pay for each time you're going to be taking the test. All right, did you hear me? Yes, no? Great. Will we be receiving what credit for attending this lecture? So every time we're going to have an online class like this, like a virtual meeting, I will be giving you an assignment, and as I mentioned in the announcement, those assignments that you're going to be completing are going to be added to your in-class activities. So your in-class activities, remember you did complete some exercises in class. Those were part of the in-class activities, and they would be graded at the end of the semester. The ones that I told you to keep with you till the end of the semester for them to be collected. So during those lectures, you're gonna have some of those exercises I told you to download in the announcement, to download the answer sheets that you're gonna be using. So let me show you here. This was the announcement here. First, this was the video, the recorded video lecture for the joints for chapter 8. I was trying to go over it in a little last time, but I did have the issue with the internet. And then for in-class meetings, they are conducted virtually using Zoom, like what we're doing right now. And I will be changing this to move to be at 5 o'clock rather than at 4. So I will put an announcement with this for later meetings as well, because I've got many people asking me to move it to 5 o'clock rather than 4. And this was the Facebook groups that you can access to see the recorded video. So this lecture is going to be recorded. I'm recording it right now, and it's gonna be taken just to upload it 6 or 7 hours. All right, so within 24 hours, I will be posting it on Facebook on this group. So if you didn't submit a request to join this group, please do, because this is where you're gonna find the recorded. I know that each one has his stuff. Each one has his stuff. I won't be able to please everyone. All right, so 5 o'clock, I see that this is gathering most of the people, and if you missed part of the lecture, you still can go and watch it on Facebook, right? So when I upload it, all right, for the lecture is going to be for 3 hours a time. We are already behind in our in the material, so I need to make up all this material during the remaining time of the semester without having to squeeze everything towards the end. Right? So we need to have more prolonged meeting for you to digest the material, not just to read the material for you. You can read it on your own. Right? So I need to break down the material, and this is gonna take me time. Right? So the online each meeting, again, if you can't make the whole 3 hours for any reason, just attend the as much as you can in a live meeting, and if you missed any part, you can still go and review it from the recorded version that will be posted on this group on Facebook. Right, this is another thing for lecture exams, as I mentioned, those gonna be conducted through Canvas. So on the due date, before the due date, don't wait until the due date. Don't come out the due date asking to have a modification of the due date. I won't be able to modify those exams for everybody. So please arrange to take the exam at least 2-3 days before the due date. See here, this is the time for where you're gonna have the lecture exam available on Canvas. For the dissections, you're asking about the dissections are gonna be if we didn't return to the campus anytime this semester, and this is what most likely gonna happen. What we're gonna do is a virtual dissection using an application. All right, the visible body applications, this is what we're gonna be doing, cutting the brain like as a model, right? So we won't be performing a real dissection if we didn't return, and this is what most likely gonna happen. Nobody is sure yet, but from what I see going on, most likely we will not be returning this semester. All right, for quizzes and the lab exams, I will update you with more information about them as I reach an agreement with the college or one of the platforms that are conducting online proctoring, right? Any questions concerning? I know that everything got disturbed. We're gonna be trying to work everything out together. I will try my best to accommodate everybody. So smaller group exams But where? If the campus is going to be closed. They only allow in the building a certain number of people, and there will have to be people on campus, like security, like IT. So those are the essential ones that will need to be in the building. I don't want to overwhelm them with having, if I'm allowing 10 students to attend an exam for 2 hours, and we still have 3 or 4 exams. So this means that for only my classes, I'm teaching this semester more than 120 students. So if I am testing 10 at a time, this means I will need the whole week to conduct one exam. So you see on here the virtual meeting. This is it. Right, so it's gonna look different when you download it on your PC. So just press on the link. It's gonna be downloaded. Those are each time I will be giving you a bunch of questions that you're gonna use this answer sheet again. You're gonna be saving them because you can, at the end of the semester, you go here to your home page. Where are the modules? Here. You go to the modules, you will find in the very last module the in-class activities. So this is gonna be allowing you to submit one PDF files. All of them as one PDF file, as I stated earlier in the announcement on here. In-class activities will be substituted by questions and exercises that will be addressed to you to complete during the virtual class meeting. Please download the attached file, as it will serve as a universal answer sheet for those exercises. You're going to be forming one PDF file that you're going to be submitting at the end of the semester, completing the assignments that we're going to have throughout the classes. But if you did not attend it, you still can go to the recording, you're going to have the same questions. You won't be missing something. I just want to make sure that everybody is attending those lectures either as recorded or either recorded or live. So campuses are closed the rest of the semester, so we'll have the lecture exam. So we're gonna have the lecture exams again on Canvas, and the lab exams are gonna be proctored on an online platform that hasn't been determined yet. All right. So we are in a condition that nobody knows nothing. Nobody knows anything. All right. So just bear with me. We're gonna be trying our best to pass this semester without having any trouble as much as we can. Any other general questions before we return back to our discussion of the muscles? All right, so looking here, we're looking here at the muscles of the head. So first muscle we've got is gonna be the one located above the cranial bones. So what do we call the whole thing on here? This is on top of the cranium, so we're gonna call it my epicranius. 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 Epi means above, and cranium means the bones of the skull here, of the cranium, of the head. Exactly. So above the head is my epicranius. Epicranius, if you see on here, is going to be formed of two muscles, and those two muscles are going to be attached together by a sheet-like tendon. So we've got here a muscle located in the anterior aspect of the head, and another one located in the posterior aspect of the head. And those are interconnected by a sheet-like tendon here. So what do we call the anterior one? The anterior one on here, this is going to be my frontalis. Frontalis, I'm in the anterior aspect of the head. How about the one located in the posterior aspect of the head? This is going to be my occipitalis. And a flattened tendon, a sheet-like tendon, is what we call an aponeurosis. So we're going to call the aponeurosis connecting the frontalis muscle to the occipitalis is my gala aponeurotic. Gala aponeurotic. So again, what we're looking at in here, we're looking at the muscles of the head. First, we started by a muscle located above the cranial bones. This muscle has two bellies, an anterior belly located in the frontal aspect of the head. This is going to be my frontalis, and one that's going to be located in the posterior aspect of the head is going to be my occipitalis. And we've got a sheet-like tendon connecting the two together. This is going to be my gala aponeurotic. So what do you think is going to be the action here of this muscle? If we're looking at the frontalis muscle here. Again, what's a muscle contraction? What's a muscle contraction? I have 2 points. I am shortening the length of the muscle, so one point going to be moving towards the other. So I have the muscle here attached to the skin of the forehead. And when I shorten the length of the muscle, what's going to happen? I am pulling the skin, I'm wrinkling the skin of the forehead, and I will be raising my eyebrows. See here, this is what I'm holding here. This is my frontalis. Frontalis muscle. Frontalis muscle. So again, what am I looking at in here? This is going to be my frontalis. And again, what is the action of the frontalis muscle? Raises the eyebrows, it wrinkles the skin of the forehead. All right. Let's have a look at another muscle on here, a circular muscle that would be surrounding the eye. So what do we call the circular muscle on here? This is going to be my orbicularis, and I'm related to the eye, so something related to the eye is oculi. Orbicularis oculi. Orbicularis have circular shape, and oculus, oculo means related to the eye. So orbicularis oculi is the circular muscle around the eye. So what do you think? If I'm contracting this circular muscle, if I'm reducing the length of the muscle fibers like this, so what happens to the diameter of the space inside? You're closing the eye, you're blinking. So when I contract the orbicularis oculi, I will be closing the eye and blinking. So what is the action here? What is the action of the orbicularis oculi? It's going to be to close the eye and blink. Allow you to blink. Squinting. Yes. All right, so again, what muscle are we looking at now? We're looking at orbicularis oculi. Let's look at another muscle again here. This is going to be the orbicularis oculi on the diagram, on the model, on the 3D model. This is my orbicularis oculi. Orbicularis oculi. Moving down towards the oral orifice, the opening of the mouth. It's going to be surrounded by another circular muscle. This is going to be my orbicularis, but related to the mouth. It's going to be orbicularis oris. Oral means related to the mouth. Related to the mouth. Orbicularis means circular, and oris means related to the oral related to the mouth. So what do you think is going to be the action here? Want to contract the muscle like this. Kissing muscle. You're pursing your lips. Kissing muscle. Right? So we're going to nickname the orbicularis oris as the kissing muscle. Right? So what is the kissing muscle here? Orbicularis oris. Doesn't allow you to smile. It allows you to close the oral orifice. Yes. Close the oral orifice. Shares with it, but it doesn't allow me to smile. We're going to see the smiling muscle in a second. All right, so I'm pursing the lips, and we call this as the kissing muscle. All right, what is the scientific name for the kissing muscle? Again, it's my orbicularis oris. Here we go. All right, so orbicularis oris. All right, so looking here at a muscle that gets its origin. Actually, those are two muscles, but for us, it's going to be, we're going to consider them as one. So you see on here, I have a large one, a smaller one. They get their origin from the zygomatic bone and zygomatic process of the temporal bone. Remember, this was my temporal bone, this was my zygomatic bone. And the muscles on here related to the zygomatic bone, we're gonna call this is my zygomaticus. See on here, zygomaticus gets its origin from where to where? It gets its origin from the zygomatic bone and the zygomatic process, and it will be inserted all the way down towards the angle of the mouth. So those are the 2 points of attachment that I have in here. One is going to be my zygomatic bone and process, and the other one, the insertion is going to be the angle of the mouth. So when you shorten the length of the muscle, which one is going to be moving? The angle of the mouth or your bone is going to be moving towards the angle of the mouth? Of course, the angle of the mouth is going to be moving. The angle of the mouth is going to be moving, and this allows you to do what? Smile. This is my zygomaticus. Again, both for us are going to be zygomaticus. So don't worry about zygomaticus. major and zygomaticus minor. So any of them, when I point at any of them on the test, it's going to be for you a zygomaticus. That's it. Don't worry about whether I'm pointing to the smaller one or the bigger one. This is my zygomaticus. And again, what is going to be the action of the zygomaticus? It pulls the angle of the mouth towards the zygomatic bone. It's allowing you to smile. Easy, easy. A few yeses, yes, we're good. All right, so another muscles that we're looking at today is going to be looking on here. A flattened muscle that is superficial, covering most of the other muscles of the neck, like this. It's going to be getting its origin down from the clavicle the first rib in here, small part of the manubrium sterni, and it goes all the way up to be inserted in the margin of the mandible. All right, so I'm getting my origin from this point. My insertion is in here. And in my way, I'm going to be attaching myself to the fascia and the skin of the neck. So what do we call this muscle here? This is my platysma. Platysma is going to be the muscle, this flattened muscle. It's a very delicate muscle that you have in your neck, traveling to be inserted in the lower margin of your mandible on here. So yes, exactly. So what's going to be the action of this muscle? So you see on here, I'm contracting my platysma. Action here will be to stretch the skin of your neck. Stretches the skin of the neck. So if a man is shaving his neck, he's going to be contracting the platysma. It also, yes, exactly, Najib. It's going to be also, as it is inserted in the mandible, the lower margin of the mandible, it pulls the mandible down a little. It's not a major action here for the muscle, but it's going to be an action of the muscle. All right, so the main action is going to be to stretch the skin of the neck, which will allow you to express, to have a facial expression of horror and fright. So you're afraid. You're contracting what muscle again here? My platysma. All right, so what muscles did we see so far? We're looking here at muscles of the head. Let's see the whole thing all together. This is my muscle above the cranium, epicranius. Anterior part of it, which is located in the anterior aspect of the head, this is my frontalis. Posterior part of it is going to be my occipitalis. And remember, this sheet-like tendons that will be connecting the frontalis to the occipitalis. This is going to be my gala aponeurotic. Looking here at the circular muscles that will be surrounding the eye. Again, circular is orbicularis, and related to the eye is going to be oculi. So orbicularis oculi. What was the action here of the orbicularis oculi? Would be to blink, close the eye. I didn't pay attention to the question on here. So the muscles are the ones underlined. Yes, so those underlined muscles on this diagram are the ones that you're going to have on the list. And you can see the list. I will show you where is the list. You can find it. Because you are supposed to know not only the muscles, but the muscles insertion actions as on the list. All right? So yes, those are the ones that you need to know for the exam as muscles, but you're gonna need to learn some details about their action, insertion, and motion, as we are discussing. All right, so we're looking here again at the orbicularis oculi. We've got a muscle, another circular muscles that will be surrounding the opening of the mouth. This is gonna be my orbicularis oris. We've got the muscles that gets its origin from the zygomatic bone and zygomatic process that gets inserted down in the angle of the mouth. This will be my zygomaticus. And remember, what is the action of the zygomaticus? It pulls the angles of the mouth, allowing you to smile. We've got a muscle on here, a flattened muscle that's going to be getting its origin down from the sternum, first rib, and the clavicle to be inserted in the lower margin of the mandible. This is going to be my platysma, which will be playing a role in facial expression for horror and fright. Also, it aids with depression of the mandible. Questions? Any questions so far? All right, moving on to our main muscles that we need to study in the neck. This is a muscle that has two compartments. One part is going to be getting its origin from the sternum, from the manubrium sterni. The other part is getting its origin from the medial part of the clavicle. So I have two parts, two origins. This muscle is going to be traveling up and backward to be inserted in my, you remember what did we call this eminence in the occipital bone on here? This is my superior mucal lines. This is something that we did not discuss much, but you see on here, this bony eminence, remember in the temporal bones, this is my mastoid process. So here we didn't study, I'm sorry, I got you confused. So superior mucal lines, this is not something that we did discuss in the occipital bone. Remember, mastoid process was part of my temporal bone. So what do we call a muscle that gets its origin from my sternum and clavicle to be inserted up here, you see, in the mastoid process. So we're going to call the muscle my sternocleidomastoid. Sternocleidomastoid is going to be the muscle that gets its origin from sternum, from the clavicle, and travels all the way backward to be inserted in the mastoid process. And again, what do we call this muscle? This is my sternocleidomastoid. Sternocleidomastoid. What do you think is going to be the action? Can you guess? Again, how would I know the action? Look back at the points of attachment. When I look back at the points of attachment, I have one attachment, which is a mastoid process on here. The other attachment was going to be the sternum and the clavicle down in here. So stretching the neck. So let's see on here. This is my muscle. The sternum doesn't move up, right? The sternum won't be pulled upward towards your head. What can move is the head itself. So if I contract the muscle, here, I'm shortening the distance. This is the distance between this point mastoid process and the sternum. This is my muscle on here. So when I shorten the length of the muscle, what's going to happen? I am rotating the head. So I'm pulling the mastoid process to move towards my sternum. Pulling mastoid process to move towards my sternum. Pull the mastoid process to move towards my sternum. If you're contracting each side at a time, what's going to happen? You're going to be rotating your head from side to side. What if I'm contracting both sides at the same time? You see, I have now pulling the mastoid, the two mastoid processes, both in the same time. Where do I pull them? I am pulling them towards my sternum. So what movement is this? What happened to the angle in the neck? Did I have an increase or a reduction in the angle of the joint? I reduce the angle of the joint, so this is going to be neck flexion. So again, what's going to be the action of the sternocleidomastoid? If I contract one side at a time, I will be rotating the head from side to side. Head rotation. If you contract both sides in the same time, what's going to happen? You're pulling the head down. Flexion of the neck. All right, so again, action of the sternocleidomastoid. Each side, when it contracts at a time, each side, when you contract each side at a time, you're going to be performing head rotation. If you contract both sides in the same time, you're going to be allowing neck flexion. Easy? Easy? Right, great. Moving on to another muscle that we've seen in our introduction. This is a muscle located in the back, again, that gets its origin from my hopefully it's not here. Getting its origin from the cervical vertebrae, from the external occipital protuberance, external occipital crest and the spinous processes of my cervical and thoracic vertebrae. See on here, all this is going to be the origin of this muscle. You can hear at the trapezius. This muscle here is my trapezius. So again, we're getting origin from the external occipital protuberance, external occipital crest, spinous processes of the cervical and thoracic vertebrae. This is the origin. This is my first point of attachments that I see on here. What is the insertion? Where do you get inserted? Where do you get inserted on here? See, all the muscle fibers are going to be going down, up to be inserted in my spine of the scapula. All right. So again, where do you get the origin from? You're getting the origin from your external occipital protuberance, crest, spinous processes of this cervical and thoracic and thoracic vertebrae. So I will be dividing this muscle into 3 groups of muscle fibers. So you have, this is your first group on here. So what do you think when you contract this group of muscle fibers? What's going to be the action? I am moving this line towards this line. So I am pulling the shoulder to move up. I have elevation of the shoulders. Elevate the shoulders, exactly. And if you see on here, if I contracted the middle muscle fibers, those muscle fibers in the middle, what action would they be performing? They will be pulling the spine of the scapula, this point on here. So let's put green. The spine of the scapula, I am pulling it towards the vertebrae. So I will be pulling the scapulae backward like this. Scapular retraction. Retraction. Let me erase all this you see on here. Looking now at the lower muscle fibers of the trapezius. You see, lower muscle fibers are getting their origin here. They will be inserted in here. And this is going to be the muscle fibers that we're looking at. So when you contract those muscle fibers, what action would you be performing? You see, can you imagine this line like this? This is my spine, spine of the scapula. It wants to move towards this line by muscle fibers which are directed like this. So what action would you be, do you think is going to be performed? This line is going to be pulled towards this line. So I will be moving like this. See, I have a line in here. I'm pulling, pew, pew, pew. So what's going to happen here? If this line is going to be rotating like this is going to cause the elevation of the shoulder. See, this is the line. I am pulling it down, so it's going to be moving up. Can you imagine here how the movement takes place? If this is the line, this is the spine, I'm pulling it down so it rotates up. I'm pulling it down like this so it rotates upward. I'm pulling it down so it rotates upward. So I will be performing rotation of the scapula. Rotation of the scapula. So again, what are the actions here? If I'm moving the scapula, you're contracting the upper muscle fibers. Upper muscle fibers gonna do what? Gonna be performing elevation of the shoulder. If I'm contracting middle muscle fibers, retraction. Lower muscle fibers, rotation. Here, I am moving the scapula. I am fixing the head. I am fixing the spine, the vertebrae. This is fixed. The part that moves is going to be the scapula here. What if I decided to do the opposite? I did fix the scapula is not moving, but I will be pulling on the head. Remember, when you pull on the head, when the scapula is flexed, it's fixed. So I'm putting on the external occipital protuberance backward. So I'm performing what movement on the neck in here? Oop. Extension. Extension that if you go beyond the normal range of movement, we call the extension beyond the normal range of movement hyperextension. Don't consider hyperextension as a movement. Again, don't consider hyperextension as a movement. It's just an extension, but beyond the normal range of motion. All right, so it's an extension. Hyperextension is an extension. All right, easy, easy. So again, what muscles did we see so far? Looking at the muscles of the head, we first have seen the epicranius. Epicranius on here. Gonna have an anterior part of it. This is gonna be my frontalis. Posterior part of it is gonna be my occipitalis. And the sheet-like tendon connecting both together, this is my galla aponeurotica. Circular muscle around the eye, Orbicularis Oculi. Circular muscle around the oral orifice, Orbicularis oris. Muscles that gets its origin from the zygomatic bone and process to be inserted in the angle of the mouth. This is going to be my zygomaticus that allows you to smile. A muscle that gets its origin from the sternum clavicle to be inserted in the lower margin of the mandibles. This is going to be my platees. A muscle, a very important muscle actually, and the strong ones that I forgot to mention on here. This is one of the strongest mastication muscles. This is my masseter. So you see on here, I get my origin also from the zygomatic bone and process, zygomatic arch, and it gets inserted down in this point in the mandible. So what do we call this point in the mandible? This is the angle of the mandible. So I got my origin from the zygomatic bone and process for it to be inserted down in the angle of the mandible. So what's going to be the action of the masseter on here? What do you think? I'm trying to pull what towards what? I'm trying to pull the mandible upward. So you see 2 points of attachment again. This is origin, this is my insertion. What am I trying to do here? I'm trying to pull the insertion to move towards the origin. So what movement do we call this? Don't call it closure of the mouth, we call it No, no. I'm putting the mandible up. What do we call this movement? Elevation of the mandible. Exactly. Elevation of the mandible. Remember, when you drop your mandible down, this is depression of the mandible. Opposite is going to be elevation of the mandible. Again, what do we call this muscle that we're looking at in here? Is my masseter. We did see another muscle that gets its origin from the sternum clavicle to be inserted up in the mastoid process. So we called it Sternocleidomastoid. What's going to be the action of the sternocleidomastoid if you contract one side at a time, allowing rotation of the head from side to side? If you contracted both sides at the same time, this is going to allow neck flexion. How about this muscle on here? What did we call this muscle? This diamond-shaped muscle. This is my diamond, trapezius, exactly. Trapezius, remember, what actions would you be performing by the trapezius? It's going to be upper muscle fibers, elevation, middle muscle fibers, retraction, lower muscle fibers, rotation. If you fix the scapula, you're not moving the scapula, you're pulling on the external occipital protuberance, allowing neck extension. All right, so what do you say is the relationship between the trapezius and the sternocleidomastoid? What do you think? What is the relationship between sternocleidomastoid? Is there any relationship first? What do you think? This is my sternocleidomastoid, and this is my trapezius. Sternocleidomastoid, trapezius. So, sternocleidomastoid, can you remind me what were the actions of the sternocleidomastoid? If you contract both at the same time, you are performing neck flexion. How about the trapezius? The trapezius, if you are fixing the scapula, you're pulling on the head. I'm pulling on the head. This is going to be allowing neck extension. So one is performing neck flexion, the other one is performing neck extension. So this means what? This means they are opposing one another, so they are antagonists in terms of neck flexion and extension. So one is performing flexion, one is performing extension of the neck, so they are opposing one another. We call those are antagonist muscles. Easy, easy. Looking here at another muscle that we've discussed in a little about in the introduction today. It's going to be this triangular muscle located in the shoulder. See on here. Remember, what do we call this muscle that looks like a triangle? It's my deltoid. So this is only one part of it. We have three heads of the deltoid. Remember, it's a multi-pinnate muscle. So where does it get its origin from? I'm looking on here. I get part of the origin from the lateral 1/3 of the clavicle. I get from the acromial process. I get from the spine of the scapula. So all this is my origin on here. All this is my origin. Where would I get inserted? This is something that you should be able to remember from our discussion of the bones. Remember, we did have this ridge on the lateral aspect of the humerus. What did we call it? This is my deltoid tuberosity. Deltoid tuberosity. Remember, this point is the point of attachment of the deltoid muscle to the humerus. You see on here, all the muscle fibers are going down like this for them to be inserted in the lateral aspect of the shaft of the humerus. All right, so what do you think is going to be the action of the deltoid muscle? I am putting the humerus towards my clavicle and scapula. This is my point of origin. Here, all this is the origin. You're putting this green part towards the origin, putting the shaft of the humerus towards your clavicle and scapula. So you see on here, I'm putting the shaft of the humerus exactly, Nagib. So here we're looking at movement of the arm away from the body. What do we call this movement? Away. This is an abduction. If I'm moving away from the body, away from the midline, it's abduction. All right. So prime mover for arm abduction or shoulder abduction is going to be deltoid muscle. Deltoid. So again, what muscles did we see here so far? We've seen a diamond-shaped muscle that gets its origin from the external occipital protuberance, external occipital crest, spine of the cervical and the thoracic vertebrae, and those muscle fibers going to be inserted in the spine of the scapula. We have 3 sets of muscle fibers, upper, middle, and lower muscle fibers. This is my trapezius. Seeing a triangular shaped muscle. This triangular shaped muscle gets its origin from the clavicle scapula here to be inserted in the lateral aspect in the mid shaft of the humerus. So what action would I be performing again? I'm putting the arm away from the body. This is an arm abduction. Moving on to another muscles that we're looking at today. This is going to be a large muscle located in the back. This is going to be my latissimus dorsi. So we're looking here on the regular diagram. This is my latissimus dorsi. So where do we get the origin from for the latissimus dorsi? So let me dissect the platysma first. See, I'm getting my origin from the spine, spinous processes of the vertebrae, lower thoracic. I'm going down towards my lumbar vertebrae, and then from the sacrum. Also, I'm getting my origin from Do you remember what did we call this ridge on here? Let me draw this. So we're getting, what did we call this ridge on here? In the coccyx bone. Iliac crest, exactly. Iliac crest. So you see on here, all this is my origin. All this is my origin. And where is going to be the insertions? This is slightly confusing. So let's look on here at the insertion of the latissimus dorsi. I'm removing few muscles for us to explore the point of attachment here of the latissimus dorsi or dorsi. I wasn't supposed to remove it like this. This is where it gets inserted. This is where it gets inserted. So you see on here, latissimus dorsi is going to be getting its origin all the way from lower thoracic, lumbar, iliac crest, and the fibers are going to be traveling up and forward to be inserted, remember, between those two bony eminences located in the proximal epiphysis of the humerus. What did we call those two bony eminences? Those are my greater and lesser tubercles. So you see on here, what action do you expect the latissimus dorsi to be performing? I want to see some answers on here. Action. Action means you tell me flexion, abduction, adduction, rotation, the movements that we did learn in the joints. And of what joints? So what is the action of what joint? Is it performing flexion, extension, abduction, adduction, rotational movement? And what is the joints that you're going to be performing the action? Or the part of the body that's going to be allowing the. So I've got abduction, adduction, arm extension, abduction of the shoulder, abduction of the arm, abduction, abduction, extension of the arm. See on here, exactly. See. So I've got a muscle that is traveling like this. It's going to be inserted in the anterior aspect of the arm. So when it pulls on the arm, it's going to pull the arm backward. So if the arm is flexed like this, I will be pulling my arm backward. This is a shoulder extension. This is extension of the shoulder. All right. Another thing, yes, so I'm inserted on the medial side. So when the arm is abducted like this, you're going to pull the arm in or out. What do you think? You're going to be pulling the arm out or in. If you are inserted in the back, in the spine, in the spinous processes of the vertebrae, and you're going to be inserted here in the arm. So when you pull the arm, you're going to pull it towards the vertebrae. So you're going to be performing what action on here? It's an adduction. Adduction. All right, so actions on here for the latissimus dorsi or dorsi, we're going to have is going to be arm extension, arm adduction. And you see also, this is like so helpful to imagine the action. So what other action can you perform by the shoulder joint other than flexion, extension, adduction, and abduction? Do you allow any rotational movement in the shoulder? What do you think? Rotation. So here I am inserted in the anterior aspect of the arm and I'm pulling it medially. So I will be rotating the arm inside or outside. What do you think? If I am pulling the arm towards my midline, so I'm rotating the arm inward. So it's going to be medial rotation. Easy. So again, three main actions of the latissimus dorsi that we're looking at. Those are arm extension, arm adduction, and arm or shoulder rotation, medial rotation of the arm. Anybody is confused about any of the three main actions on here for the latissimus dorsi? Everything is good? All right, great. So we're moving on to another muscle. This is going to be a muscle located in the anterior aspect of the chest. It's going to be my pectoralis major. See on here, this is my major part. This is the largest part of the pectoralis major. So we have multiple parts of the pectoralis major. But what you see on here, where do I get the origin from, generally speaking, for the pectoralis major? See on here, I'm getting my origin medial 1/3 of the clavicle, manubrium sterni, body of the sternum, the costal cartilages that will be attaching the ribs to the sternum. We'll keep moving out, be inserted in the anterior aspect of the shaft of the humerus. So I'm getting my origin here, like this. Clavicle, sternum, and I will be inserted in the anterior aspect of the arm. So what action would I be performing? If the arm is abducted, it's moving away from, it's away from the body. So when I pull the arm, right, my arm is disappearing. All right, so when I pull the arm towards my chest, what action am I performing? I'm performing an adduction. Adduction. What do you think? If the arm was extended like this, the pectoralis major will pull it forward or will move it backwards. If the arm was extended, so the pectoralis major is trying to pull the humerus to move towards my chest, right? So it's gonna be moving. See on here, this is my pectoralis major, this is my insertion. I am pulling the humerus to move towards my chest. This means I'm performing flexion of the shoulder. I'm moving the arm forward. Remember, when you move the arm forward, you are reducing the angle of the shoulder joint. And when you reduce the angle of the shoulder joint, this is what we call flexion of the arm at the shoulder. Easy, easy. So again, two main actions here. Pectoralis major, we're going to be performing adduction and flexion of the arm. So when you go and you want to train your pectoralis major in the gym, that day when you decide to change your life, today we're going to be training in the gym. So what is the best exercise that you're going to be performing to train your pectoralis major? You push forward here, bench press. Bench press here, what we're gonna be performing? Adduction, I'm pulling the arm inward. I'm pulling the arm inward, adduction, and forward, flexion. So it's a combined adduction and flexion of the arm, both in the same exercise, for me to activate as many fibers as I can. Easy. Easy. So again, what actions would I be performing by the latissimus dorsi? Is going to be arm extension and adduction. Pectoralis major, flexion and adduction. So what's going to be the relationship between pectoralis major and latissimus dorsi? Are those antagonists or are those synergists? Synergists, antagonists, depend on the movement. Exactly, it depends on the movement. So what movement are you asking about? If you are asking about the adduction, for adduction, both are performing adduction. So both are synergists in terms of adduction of the arm. But one is going to be performing flexion. Pectoralis major performs flexion of the shoulder. Latissimus dorsi is going to be performing extension of the shoulder. So they are antagonists in terms of flexion extension, but in terms of adduction of the arm, they are performing the same, or they are adding force to one another, so they are synergists. Is this clear? So two muscles might be antagonists in one movement and synergists on another movement. They don't have to be antagonists all the way in every single movement they perform. They don't have to be synergists in every single movement they perform. So in some movements, they might be opposing one another, and in other movements, they might be adding force to one another. Is this clear so far? All right, great. So let's complete this exercise. So please use the answer sheet that you have, type it down and save it for you with today's date, for you to, when it's time for you to submit all of them together, you can find them. I don't want you to lose them and keep viewing the recordings in the very last day of the semester because you forgot where did you store them. All right, so please make sure you have them in a safe part of your device. And at the end, if you've got trouble converting them into a PDF file, just keep them as Word documents. Change the name, add your answers for today's, make a document for each one of those exercises for it to be easy to collect and put them all together as one file to be submitted at the end of the semester. All right? Is this clear? Clear? Any questions concerning this point? The answer sheet is one answer sheet. It's a universal answer sheet. It's a Word document. So you can create your own if you want. It doesn't matter. But you need just to make sure you put the date of the lectures today and your name, first, last name on each one of them. All right, this is the only thing. So it's a Word document. I'm not sure if you were here when I showed you the document on here. This is just a Word document that you will be downloading. I did just write down the numbers on here, as you see. First, last name, live meeting date. The live meeting, when was it? So what day was it? Just record this information and just answer the questions I will be addressing now on any Word document, having your first, last name, and your the time of when did this assignment got assigned. So now you're getting your very first one. So get this completed and ready, stored, ready to be submitted towards the end of the semester. All right. So those are just a few questions today. Then it's going to be much more for later, because we are getting to know the new ways by which we're going to be completing the course. So still under some kind of training. All right, both of us, me and you. All right, so looking on here at the muscles. So name the muscles on here. This is one. This is not a muscle, but you still need to name it. Two. All right, so you've got 8 muscles. If you want to take a screenshot, if you want to wait until I post this video on the Facebook page, so just write down the answers, just the names of those muscles or tendons. Yeah, you can just write them down on a piece of paper and then copy them, or if you're not sure of the answers, just take a screenshot, or if you don't want to take a screenshot, wait for the video to be posted for you on Facebook, on the Facebook group page. Yes, only 8, only 8. Only 8 muscles or tendons that you're going to be naming. And this completes our discussion for today. And I apologize for starting that late. I'm not sure what's going wrong with my internet. It was working fine early today. I give the AP2 class early today. I didn't have a problem with it, but all of a sudden it crashes again. So the same happened on Tuesday. So morning class works fine, and then evening class crashes. It's not opening even Google. So I will go back home and will give them a call back, and we'll check whether they will be able to do something before next week, or what would I do. All right, so stay tuned. I will be updating you through the announcements on Canvas if there is any change, if there will be any modification to what we did agree on so far. I will put an announcement on Canvas to make sure that everybody knows now that we're going to be starting our meeting at 5 instead of 4 o'clock. All right, thank you so much for waiting for me for an hour, and have a good night. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay away from crowds, stay home. This is the best place so far. All right, have a good night, all of you, and we'll see you on Tuesday at 5 o'clock. All right, good night.